As usual. And there we are. Alright, so welcome. This is Nuke Marine presenting Let's Learn Japanese, a course series for the self-study Japanese from basics and beginnings up to intermediate and hopefully advanced. Alright, so this is, as usual, a Let's Read Japanese, so above is going to be playing of what I'll be watching. In fact, it would help if I bring it up. Okay, about that. Alright, in this case it's going to be Steins Gate, episode 16 and hopefully 17. The idea here that'll play off to the side is going to be a text I'll be reading, and I read along to the audio, and if I see something I don't understand or know, I'll look it up with a pop-up dictionary called Yomi-chan, and essentially try to increase my comprehension of this show to a much higher degree than if I was just watching it normally. Alright, so wait, look at this as study time. So if, let's say, so let's go into a quick blog thing. So most things you got to do in almost any language you're going to learn, you kind of have to cover 50 to 75% of the basic, 50 to 75% of the language. Now, it doesn't take much to cover that. In that, and by the way, that doesn't mean you understand 50 to 75% of the language. Just you have the potential to understand it. So let's say if you know English and you studied about 500 words in French or 500 words in Spanish, of the most common words, you probably now have a good grasp of 50 to 75% of that language, because there's going to be carryover between what you already know in English. So that's it. When you go to Japanese, because the disconnect is much greater, both especially in the written form and the spoken form. So not only do you have to learn these basic words, the amount you need to know is higher. So like just to cover 65% of the language, you got to learn up to about 2,500 words. And that just means you got the potential of understanding a word 65% of the time. On top of that, you need to learn basic grammar. And again, this takes time, so what usually we call it would take him. But when you get that in, once you get that though done, you can kind of like, it still takes 200 hours to get that, like to have at least a comprehension, have it be comprehensible at that to you. Then you need to start putting it to use. So hence now is where I'll say, like, that's when you could start doing the reading every day. So whatever study time you're doing for today, let's say you were studying, you're like actually going balls to the wall, so you're doing like 4, 6, whatever. Let's just say you're doing 4 hours a day of studying. Okay, so you're learning pretty fast. So this 200 hours of study you have to do then takes about 50 days, so about 2 months. Okay, so about 2 months of this, and now back off and now start reading for 2 hours a day. Now what you can read in those 2 hours is going to take a long time, but going to take you, you're not going to get a lot of reading done in like page count, but it's still going to be 2 hours worth of study. And then the other 2 hours can be, again, continue on with that learning. It could be learning an additional 2,000 words, let's say from the Tango N3 deck. Okay, while you're doing that, so you're doing that before you were doing it at 4 hours a day, now you're doing that 2 hours a day. So you're going to go, maybe you learn about half as many words than what you were doing. But that's fine, because now you're doing something different in that you're doing the reading. And you're reading to audio. And you're reading to audio and looking up words you don't know. Now, and during that time of this type of reading, like I'm doing here, you will be learning. At the same time, you're going to be learning words via your traditional, the way you were doing, which is, let's say, Tango N3. Right? And you may find out, like, okay, so let's say so now to get through Tango N3, it's still going to take about, I want to say, 120 hours, probably. It might be a little faster, but assume every 500 words / sentences takes you about 30 hours. Okay, so about 4, so that's 2,000, so that's 120 hours. And again, that's just a rough estimate. But let's say that, all right, so that's 120 hours. Let's say you're doing 4 hours a day, you're doing 2 hours a day, so now it's 60 days. So now you're up to about 4 months. Now you're up to about 4,500 words, but you've done another 120 hours of reading. And during that time, you did learn words. Now you can take another step back. Instead of it being, now you still want to do that 2 hours of reading a day, but now, what if you just say, okay, hey, take a step back and start doing sentence mining. But don't just sentence mine what you're reading now. What if you sentence mine stuff you were reading? So in that past 220 hours, maybe you did read 2, 3 TV shows, maybe 4 TV shows, like a whole series. So why don't you run that first TV show, the very first series. What if you run that through Morphman and start learning sentences that way? So if you do that for like an hour, you just say, okay, let's just say on average in that couple hours you could study 10, 20 words using Tango. Well, okay, cut that back in half again. Now you're going to do half of it's going to be Morphman sentence mining, half of it's going to be Tango. Or you can just do, hey, I'm going to do a certain amount from Morphman, then I'm going to do, after a certain amount of time, I'm going, not time, but after a certain number of words, let's say a couple hundred, 500 words, whatever, I'm going to then learn a few hundred words from Tango, and then go back and forth. You could do that way. So now, but imagine that. So now you're still doing 2 hours of reading to audio with lookups, and you're doing 2 hours of studying. And if you're consistent with that, you're going to find out first, you're going to read more, you're going to be able to cover more and more reading in those 2 hours. All right. With the studying part, you're still probably going to be learning about 10, 20 words. The number of words you learn per hour is going to be roughly the same. It's just that your reading gets faster because again, a lot of what you read is stuff you already know. You already know what the words mean. You know what some of this basic vocabulary and grammar, you know what that means. So you're just reading through that. You're only limited to about, again, the speed of the audio that plays, or your reading speed. But for the most part, it's going to be slower than what the audio is playing because you got to pause and look up words. But you're going to be pausing less because you know more words, and you probably can comprehend what you're reading more. So it's just kind of a slight play. But to get to that point, though, there was that you had to get over that. You have to do that first part, that basic grind that people associate that has to be done through the entire language. I don't think you got to do it to the entire language. You just get to the point, do the grind, true, but get to that point, then start using the language. And by the way, I'm saying the way I'm doing this here, this isn't, you don't do this all this time. You don't have to do this like, there's a movie playing in front of me on the TV right now. The audio's turned down, but I could be watching that movie, and I'm not pausing and looking up stuff. I'm just watching it for fun. If I don't comprehend something, I don't comprehend, but I'm watching it for fun. That could be a majority of your time immersion. But this type is a very specific type of immersion in that it's structured. It is in a study. It is studying in a way. But you're reading. If you see something you don't know, you look it up. That's studying. Right? You're not using Anki. You're not adding whatever you did into Anki. You're just letting, if you soak it up, good. If you don't soak it up, oh well, life goes on. You weren't ready for yourself to soak it up. But again, you just kind of split your time. So let's back off a bit. So if you're ever doing that 4 hours a day, cool. 2 hours of it would be reading. 2 hours of it are going to be studying vocabulary or whatever or sentence mining. Cool. If you are only doing it for 2 hours a day, do an hour of it reading and then an hour of it sentence mining or it's vocabulary study. If you're doing it for 6 hours, then 3 and 3. I think that's a pretty good amount. Now, what I'm doing is, once I've done reading with something and enough time has passed, I take what I've read and then I put it into Morphman, and then I essentially do sentence mining via Morphman of material I've already read, and a lot of it I comprehend. So I'm finding stuff I didn't learn or I didn't comprehend, but since I comprehend the overall story, the context is there, so it makes it a lot easier to pick it up. And because of the stuff that I've done this Let's Reads on, I also got on a loop playing in the background. That'll occasionally come up, and it's like now I'm comprehending even more and more. Again, it just kind of builds on things. It's just something to consider. It's not that complicated. It is not that complicated. And I don't think there's anything magical. I don't think there's anything magical about when they say about turn your definitions to go full monolingual. I don't think there's a big benefit to that. But do it when you're ready. Don't think like I get better because I'm monolingual. It's just that you're ready for monolingual. It's just that you can. It's kind of like if you can be shown a picture of a word. You see a Japanese word and they show you a picture. And it's like, oh, that's what it means. Okay, that's like monolingual right there. But without the definition, that's really what you want. You want just through context you understand it. Cool. If you see a word and you watch it on TV and through the context you understand what the word means. Okay, you learn the word. That's again a great way of learning it. But then the second level would be, hey, if it can be explained to you in the target language, that's so hey, just make sure that's the first definition you look at. If it's a long definition, it's probably not what you want. You probably then want a translation because you comprehend, you understand the concept, but you understand the concept in your native language, not your target language. Then that means okay. But if it's a very short definition, most likely you can probably comprehend what that word means from that definition in Japanese. All right. Now, the dangerous ones are if it's got a very long English, like a bunch of English translations to it. That just means like, okay, this word, it's very context dependent. So you got to be much more careful. There you might want to have just the entire sentence kind of, either that's probably not a good sentence or a good word to maybe stick with at the moment. It just depends. I think you kind of get a feel for this after you start doing it for a while. Like, what's a good word? Because there's so many words you can be learning. Don't be afraid to skip a word that maybe is just like demanding too much. Like it's probably offering a little bit too much. There's, again, the whole concept of low-hanging fruit is there. And all right, I've talked way too much on this. Hopefully this all makes sense. Anyway, let's get into reading. Let's see. I tell you what, let me just do the news. Why not? All right. That's wrong. Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. All right, and let's bring this up. All right, so same as here, I'm just going to, till about the 30-minute mark, I'm going to be reading the news, so you can skip ahead if you want to, if you're watching this later, or if you're watching this live. Because again, I don't, let's say, censor what news clips are being shown. So these are being shown in order. So again, viewer discretion is advised. Some of these news clips can get pretty dark, really dark. All right, let's see what we got. And we have, okay, you're on. Oh, some YouTuber got arrested. Okay, let's see what happens here.
黒い T シャツを着 黒い T シャツ
Let me put in earphones. Actually, let me read the title real quick. Okay, anyway. YouTuber 全国で迷惑外信 proclaimed, self-proclaimed. Okay, basically just an asshole, nationwide asshole. There we go.
黒い T シャツを着てスーパーの店内を歩く男。そして
見てこれ、見てこれ。
とカメラに示したのは売り物である魚の切り身です。すると
Yeah, that's an asshole. Oh, fuck that guy.
ラップを破り手づかみで食べ始めたのです。
Well, I mean, if he actually paid for it and then brought it into the store and ate it
投稿されたこの映像。
for shock value, I guess that's
タ
fine.
イトルは
店の商品、会計前に食ってやったぜ。
Yeah, that's still theft.
男は空になったパッ
Destruction of
クと
property.
千円札を手に
Whoa, 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 whoa.
レジへ。
田淵の腹減ってた。
逃げることなく笑いながら会計を済ませたこの男。
What an asshole.
住所不定の自称 YouTuber 原田翔太容疑者。
Harada Shota. Harada Shota.
29歳です。動画を見つけた店長が被害届を提出。警察は愛知県岡崎市内のスーパーで魚の切り身1パックを会計前に開封して食べた行為が窃盗に当たると判断し逮捕。
窃盗 窃盗に当たる判断に対応。
昨日送検しました。
2 days ago.
ヘズマリュウと名乗り、
ヘズマリ。That's what he's known as, right? 自分の名前。ヘズマリュウ、ヘズマリュウ。
YouTube に動画を投稿していた原田容疑者。
投稿。ドラフト？読書の新聞など。投稿。
問題の動画は今年5月に投稿されました。投稿目的で行ったとみられる今回の行為に対し、専門家は。
窃盗罪というのはですね。
Okay. So 国際弁護士 and this is Aohara, Kiyohara. Kiyokawa, maybe. Probably that. Kiyohara Haku? Kiyohara Haku 弁護士。Kiyohara Haku 弁護士。
商品を勝手に処分をした時点で犯罪として完成してしまう。その後にですね、代金を払ったとしても犯罪の事実は消えない。
原田容疑者は自らを迷惑系 YouTuber と称し、全国各地で迷惑行為を重ねていました。叫ぶ原田容疑者の前にあったのは、去年10月の火事で焼失した首里城の復興を願う
首里城、沖縄県団首里キャスル。首里城の復興。首里城の復興。
メッセージボードです。
元気を分けちゃうぞい。
などと言いながら、人々の願いがこもった書き込みの上から自身のサインを書き殴ったのです。また今回の東京都知事選では NHK から国民を守る党の立花孝党首の演説カーに乗り、
立場。党首の演説。
自身の活動を宣伝。
兵庫県のパチンコ屋がですね、
兵庫県のパチンコ屋が、
コロナの休業指示にもかかわらず営業していたんですよ。でそこは自分で、ピッピッピとメントスコーラで突撃して店を晒してやったんですよ。300万再生しました。それよりはその活動は大反対だけどな。
大反対。Okay. Yeah. Good. Yeah, he's not approving of that.
こうした様子を映像に収めては投稿を繰り返していた原田容疑者。調べに対し今回の窃盗の容疑を認めていて、警察は動画を撮影していた男性からも事情を聞く方針です。
Yeah. So yeah, obviously though, you can go. Okay, it doesn't matter if you were planning to buy it. Okay, technically it is destruction property because it's not your property yet. It's the store's property. You have to go and make the exchange so that You know, now that they got the exchange, you got the receipt. It's your property. Now you can do it. And those smart YouTubers, they always set this up. They buy the material ahead of time. Then they go and they kind of sneak it in, and then they pretend like they're getting it from the store when actually it's their property. So it looks bad, but again, it's no more than if you film something that looks like you slit somebody's throat and there's blood leading out of their throat. Again, that's called acting. You know, we do movies like that all the time. There's nothing illegal about that. You know, type of thing. So, but again, what he did is he kind of forgot the one step. You got to make it legal. Because by what he did, even though it was shocking, it was also illegal. So he caught him for the illegal part. The whole being an asshole, it's not always being an asshole in Japan. There could be laws against being an asshole in Japan. I'm not a lawyer there, but yeah, like doing stuff that writing his name really big on that board. Again, being an asshole, probably not illegal. If it's on private property, they can tell you to leave. That type of thing. If you come back now, it's trespassing. There are certain things like that. People forget about that one thing. Like there are certain steps to make being an asshole. It's not exactly illegal to be an asshole. That means though you're also allowed to do it anywhere without repercussions as well. But again, he did the screw up. He did commit a crime. Okay. Anyway, next up. What else we got? What time is it right now? That was a longer skip. I usually skip these clips that are like 4 or 5 minutes long. Let's see. That actually looks interesting, but I'll skip it. Usually I want them to be about a minute long, that's why.
東京都が昨日
Okay, Tokyo no kaisen. Okay, so I know that's infected persons. Kansensha. Tokyo no kansensha. Yaku 43 人. Let me pause this real quick. Keire hoteru hobo. Uncovered? Umaru, or buried. Umaru. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that. Okay, here we go.
東京都が昨日確認した新型コロナウイルスの感染者は143人でした。6日続けて100人を超える中、感染者を受け入れるホテルの部屋がほぼ埋まっていることが分かりました。東京都によりますと、143人のうち夜の繁華街で
繁華街で
接待を伴う飲食店の
接待 connecting. Let's see. Waiting connections. Let's see. Reception welcome. 接待を伴う飲食店の
従業員や客の割合はおよそ 17% で
okay. So people in the reception areas are representing 70% of these 143 people. Okay, that makes sense.
先週1週間の平均 30% と比べると減少しています。
Yeah, it's a reduction of 30%.
一方、都内の感染者は連日100人を超えています。
So Tonai, that's I just learned that recently, by the way. So that's in the center. That's the metropolitan area of Tokyo. So if Tokai, that's urban area of any city. Tonai is specifically the urban area of Tokyo. Kansensha.
こうした中、軽症や無症状の人を受け
Keishoya. That's that's when someone's indicating symptoms, and then the other one's not showing symptoms. So make sure about that. Keishoya mushojo. Keishoya mushojo no hitoを受け入れるホテルの
入れるホテルの部屋がほぼ埋まっていることが分かりました。都内に2つある受け入れ先のホテルのうち1つとの契約が間もなく切れることから、残る1つのホテルだけで感染者を受け入れているためだということです。都の担当者は
Yeah, so that's the Tokyo governor.
新しいホテルが決まるまで無症状の人は自宅療養をしてもらうとしています。
Okay, recovery in their own house. So basically, yeah, convalescence in the home. 自宅療養してもらうとしてます。Yeah, okay. So again, it's kind of weird, like looking at what Japan is dealing with the virus versus, the reports I'm hearing from the U.S. Whereas in the U.S. it's like in a day's time, 60,000 or even 70,000 people. Here they're talking about maybe 100 people. Again, just like 0.2% of what the U.S. is experiencing. It's insane. Just thinking about it. But again, just the difference down. Just people washing their hands. At least the majority of people are willing to wash their hands, wear masks, and limit who they come in contact with. Will definitely slow down the contagion. That in turn means that they can concentrate on areas where, again, where the flare-ups are at. They can actually pinpoint where the problem's at. Like here, it's like, hey, 1 out of 6 of these are reception area places. So hey, put more protective areas in that. Put more protective steps in those areas. Hey, maybe actually try to figure out a way to actually limit, things that exchange hands, that type of things. A lot of deaths in the U.S. are, right now it's the leading cause of death. Like, my understanding, like, it is officially now is the leading cause of death this year, and how it works. So, it's and again, it's a disease and it has certain things. So again, it's affecting older people as opposed, it does affect younger people. And again, don't forget though, that's death. And then of course this is a disease, so not everything is about, when we hear in the military, you hear casualties. Casualty doesn't mean death. It means people aren't able to then continue on in the war effort. So that means people, if you lose a limb, you're a casualty. You can't continue on with again, but again, that's why you have, dead and casualties. So again, there was like anyway, just trying to take a step back. There's going to be a lot more casualties to the coronavirus by those that have long-term illnesses that then they still have to be taken care of. Again, if you have breathing problems, if you have heart problems, then yeah, that's going to be issues throughout life. Again, you got to make that's again, that's just the nature of what happens when your biological body comes in contact with something that essentially is taking over your cell replication process. It just is the nature of the system. And that it doesn't care about again if you're a good person in life, it doesn't care. Anyway, so I'm saying, like, even if you're only, like, even if the deaths are at, let's say 130,000 in the U.S. I'm not sure what the numbers are in Japan. Even then, multiply that by like 10, and that's probably like the number of people, so now that's, over 1 million people that might be having long-term health effects, lasting health effects because of this infection. So that's why it's important to, like, you really don't want to get it, because if you do get it, majority of the time, again, 90% of the time, nothing's going to happen to you. Your body's going to do what your body does to every virus it comes in contact with, new or not. But again, that unlucky 10%, and then that 1% will die, and then the rest of that other 9% won't. And again, if you're in the older age bracket, because again, there are the numbers that are much higher, that pushes the percentage, the percentage up to 1 or 2%. But that means like 10, 20 or higher percentage affect that older age bracket. So those are much more. You got to be much more careful with that group. And I think in the U.S., hopefully they're realizing that, where take care of the elderly. So you might be getting larger number of infections, not as the deaths hopefully won't be spiking as bad. It is spiking, but not as bad, because they realize, like, okay, so yeah, a lot more people are getting sick. That's still going to have an impact on the hospital and these treatments and whatnot. So it's not a good thing. But the number of deaths won't be there. You still, though, will have problems, and you will have deaths. So that's why you don't encourage this. And the worst thing that'll happen is if that virus mutates and you give it a lot of biological mass to run through, it's going to mutate, because that's what viruses do. You might get one that is, now all of a sudden, now you got to go through this whole BS again. So you got to just be really careful about that. All right, I think I talked enough. I apologize. I only did 2 articles, and me talking about this is not helping. It's just kind of like, again, it's just a weird thing, because you're in Japan, and schools are opening. Businesses are opening. Even Tokyo Disneyland is open. but they're doing it, and they're not like saying, they're not pretending everything's fine and dandy. They're open with precautions. You know, they're still trying to get the economy going along, you know, as a way of trying to make society try to go back to a sense of normality, but they're not being insane about it and whatnot. But it's a flu. Yeah. It's COVID corona, kind of like, not, is it under SARS? I can't remember if it's under SARS or not. Right. In the way, you know, like with flu, benefit of flu is like, because we have ways where you can, you know, again, there's all sorts of strains of flu. So when you create a flu vaccine, they're actually, it's like multiple vaccines, and the hopes is like you can cover it where, like, you know, instead of it being 100% of the population not protecting against it, just make it where, you know, 30 to 50% of the population is protected. Then you, again, you've reduced the number, the chances, and then of course you always make sure, again, take protective measures. This one, the benefit here is like, hopefully people realize like protective measures work, and maybe they'll get away from this. You know, it's like this will continue even beyond. Again, you know, you know, again, wash your hands. You know, if using a mask is fine, go for that, and you know, keep social distance. Like, don't be, you know, don't pack people in like sardines. Maybe that's, if you can help it. Like, you know, if you got to do a higher price, you know, but you serve less people, so you got to charge a higher price. Yeah, because that's economics. Try that. You know, don't try to think, oh, I got more seats, let's, you know, shove them into all more seats. You know, just say, okay, we just cannot do that, so we do have to jack up prices. Nitsu, but it's a flu. Flus have a higher death count. No, no. Oh God, no. Flu is like 0.2%, and the coronavirus, at least in China, in the U.S. it's about 1%. But again, remember this, okay? If you're trying to keep the virus away from the high risk people, then of the category of number of people who get infected, smaller percentages die. So that makes the death rate go lower, right? If this is like that's what happened when it was brand new versus, okay, now we realize, hey, oh good, people who are in the elderly are the much more higher risk categories, so we make sure about that. Okay, it's not transmitted aerosol, not too well. Cool, so we can do masks because that can help slow down the risk of it. All you're doing is, it's called risk reduction. It's not risk removal. So again, that's like, you got an airbag there, you got a seat belt, you've got crumple zones in the car. So if you get into a collision with another car, the chances of you dying are reduced. It's not 100%, but it's still a lot better than if there was no seat belt, no airbag, and zero crumple zone. All right, now you've turned into jelly. Okay. Yeah, there's like, then they're scooping you out of the car with the scoop. Yeah, there you go. So you got to keep this, you got to be rational about this. And you look at like, hey, look, hey, if it's working in other countries and it's not working in the ones that aren't doing the stuff that the other countries are doing, well, do what the other countries are doing. This is not complicated. Personal hygiene is what stops Black Death. Well, also, we built up some immunity as well. But yeah, hygiene helps out so much. Not having, you know, there's some things like, because of the cleanliness of, you know, let's say you make it a habit of, you know, cleaning out the grains of your house, then you don't attract rats, which then won't bring the bubonic plague. You know, cleanliness can do it. You know, so keep yourself clean, washing your food, washing your hands, you know, that sort of thing. It's what we consider the standard hygiene, just standard hygiene, helps out so much. Helps out. But again, it's not 100%. It just helps. But if you got something that, like measles, they transmit fast. Measles is horrible when it comes to transmission, and it can be deadly if in the older people who are older. But as opposed to this is not as communicable as measles, but it's still communicable. You've got AIDS, which again is a virus, but it's not airborne, so it's a bloodborne. You know, so you got to have transfer of fluids in that way. You know, but again, it's the nature of the systems and whatnot. Again, AIDS is another nasty virus. Anyway, that's enough of that. So thank you all very much for the news portion of things. Thank you for your questions there, Nietsu. And let's go on. Okay, come on. Let's not think about... Let's go. Okay, so we're on episode 16 and 17 of Steins Gate. He just got the phone call that maybe he noticed there is a John Tider's dad, or the Suzuha's dad, may have been seen. So he's going to go meet the guy who may have seen him and see what happens there. He is time traveling. They're going up to, he time traveled back 2 days, so hopefully they fix the time machine. They might travel back even further. So time will tell. Time will tell. Let's go. Turn the audio down to the rate of the microphone to 30%. Should still be able to hear me, just not as loudly. And let's begin.
Yes. そのゲストが make me please pin badge。You が持ってきたのとセイムだったのよ。
その男がピンバッジの制作を依頼したんだな。そいつはどんな男だった？
どんな？そうね。Like a barrel。
バレル？
バレルタイターか。
タイター？ No, no. Just like a barrel。
バレルって日本語で樽のことだよ。
樽？
この前ライネットのアニメに出てたのです。バレルモンスターっていう樽の怪人がね。
Yes. Just a taru. Or a balloon.
Balloon.
樽や風船みたいな。
So Taru's barrel, right? What's that Taru? Yeah, okay, so Taru is barrel. Food, hot air balloon. Fusen. Balloon. Yeah, Fusen. Taru ya Fusen mitai na. Oh, a fat guy.
男ってこと？
その男の連絡先は？
Sorry. Private information.
Oh.
Nothing.
手がかりなしか。でも注文したピンバッジが出来上がれば取りに来るんじゃない？
作るのに1週間かかると言ったら注文せずに帰ったそうだ。
そっか。
やっぱり諦めるしかないのかな。
いや、まだ方法はある。明日のタイムリープマシンの完成を待ち、時間を遡れば。
Oh, 254, okay. Okay, August 11th. Is that Fukano? Fukano? Can't tell.
鈴葉は？
さっき帰ったでしょ？何言ってるの？
後で説明する。しまった。その男が何時頃やってきたのか聞き逃していた。
Hey, らっしゃい。
あれか。確かに樽か風船のようなシルエットを。
It's Daru, isn't it?
誰？ゲゲオカリン。まったく、なぜピンバッジを偽装しようなどと。
天主の親父さんが見つからなかったらかわいそうじゃん。その時はせめてバッジを見せて架空のタイタンを作り上げる作戦。
架空のタイトを作り上げる作戦。
ぬか喜びさせるということか。
ぬか喜びさせる。
嘘には2種類ある。人を傷つける嘘と優しい嘘と。
そんなことをして鈴葉が喜ぶとでも思っているのか。
はあ、天主から誰にも言うなって言われてんだけど。タイムマシンは過去にしか飛べないらしいんだ。行ったら戻ってこられない。
調子は差し入れだ。
おお、ここでキンキンに冷えたノンカロリーのコーラ差し入れとか。
キンキンに冷えた。barely cool. See, キンキンに冷えたノンカロリー差し入れた。
気が利きすぎだろう。
気が利きすぎだろ。
どう？タイムマシンは治りそう？
明日までにはなんとか。
すごいね、特艦コーチとはいえ。
ダルの実力は折り紙付きだ。見た目で判断するなと言ったろ。
Let me see something real quick. 折り紙好き。That's a phrase. 折り紙付き。折り紙好きだ。折り紙好きだ。
え？そんなこと言ったっけ？まあ確かに見た目は不摂生で冴えない感じなのにね。
不摂生多様の。What's up, KTK White Mouse? Without paying attention. Oh, yeah. So, doesn't pay attention to his health. 不摂生で。
考えを改める。
それじゃあ天主も手伝って。そして狭いタイムマシンの中、うだるような暑さに僕らは恥ずかしさも忘れて服を脱ぎ。
I like how he just went back in time just to find out about her dad. And then it's like, but then he changed it because now, well, slightly, because now there's no word about the.
実調子の変態。
ダル君とスズさんって結構お似合いだね。あのさ、今言わないと機会を永遠に逃しちゃいそうだから言うけど、私さ、君たちには本当感謝してるんだ。初めてこの時代に来た時、知ってる人は誰もいなくて、この時代の方がすごく平和なのにさ、なんだか私にとってはすごく怖かった。でも今はこうしてたくさんの仲間ができた。この時代に来ることができて、君たちと同じ時間が過ごせて、私本当に楽しかった。ほんのちょっとでもラボメンの一員になれてよかった。君たちと一緒にいられてよかった。
行ったら戻ってこられない。
岡部倫太郎、きっと未来を
変える。今みたいな 自由な世界に変えてやる。
岡部倫太郎。
思い出を作ったことを後悔していないか。別れが必然ならば最初から俺たちと仲良くなどならなければよかったと。後悔していないのか。
ひょっとして橋田至から聞いた？
あいつもお前のことを心配している。
私は行くよ。未来を変えることが父さんの意志だったから。
そのためならお前自身はどうなってもいいというのか。
70年代だって悪くないよ。そこでまた君たちみたいな友達を作って自由に生きていく。
それじゃあ行くよ。多分これで OK だと思うけど、一応最終チェックよろ。
大丈夫みたい。ほんとすごいよ君は。もっと喜んだら？君はタイムマシンを修理したんだよ。1975年何月何日がいいかな。こういう時は大安吉日？
大安吉日？大安吉日。大安吉。大安吉日。吉日。大安。Real safety? Auspicious day. 大安吉日？
それとも友引き？
それは
友引き？One day. 友引き。それとも友引き？
結婚式。あ、でも友引きはいいのかな。向こうで新しい友達が早くできるかもだし。
友達か。それはいいね。
FG。
FG204？ ねえすずさん。何これって？ああ、それはね、父さんがつけたタイムマシンの名前。私の自転車？
タイヤを外せば入るかなと思って。お気に入りなんでしょ？
大事にする。
What if that's a phrase? 大事にする。
ありがとう。わかった
え？
マユシ、すずさんのお父さんが誰なのか分かっちゃいました。
何？
しかもその人は今このすぐ近くにいるのです。どこに？ずっと思ってたんだ。二人はなんかお似合いだなって。でも今分かりました。それは二人が親子だったからなのです。
おい、まさか。
すずさんのお父さんはダルくんです。
はい。
それはジョークになってないでしょう。そもそもこの変態が結婚なんて。
その発言はひどくね？
説明してくれ。どんな理由でこの結論に至ったのだ？
まずバレルって樽って意味でしょ。樽、ダルくん？
ダジャレ。
ダジャレ？へってな。Fall down drunk? つまらない。Cheap joke. ダジャレ？
そんなことが理由になるか。
でもすずさんがいたレジスタンスを作った人の中にはオカリンもバレルタイターさんもいたんでしょ？で、 2010年の秋葉でタイムマシンを独自に研究できて、オカリンのリーディングシュークリームに
リーディングシャイナーシュークリーム
リングシュタイナー
について知ってる人ね。ダルくんしかいないでしょ。そしてマユシーの見つけた一番の証拠は、タイムマシンの名前 FG204 フューチャーガジェットのことだよ。
未来ガジェット。
そしてね、この横にも文字があるでしょ。
フューチャーガジェット2045セカンドエディションバージョン 2.31。
そのネーミングセンス。
父さん。
そういう時はパパと呼びなさい。
こんな時くらい変態はやめろよ。
Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, I wouldn't. Okay. That's creepy.
父さん。私来たよ。父さんに会うために。父さんの作ったタイムマシンに乗って。父さんのやろうとしてたこと、私絶対にやり遂げるから。だから見てて。
やり遂げるから成し遂げる。やり遂げるから絶対にやり遂げるから。
年。
見てるよ。絶対に見てる。ちなみに母さん可愛かった。ロリ顔で背が小さくて巨乳っての希望。
Wait, kibon. Okay, it's not saying. I'm assuming this means big-breasted, but 兄弟っての希望。
それは内緒にしとく。じゃあそろそろ行くよ。マユシーたちのこと忘れちゃ嫌だよ。気をつけて。私は大丈夫。きっと IBN5100 を手に入れてみせるから。そして必ず君たちに託す。だからお願い。未来を変えてほしい。それじゃ35年後にまた会おう。君たちにとっては数時間後か。
Still 8 episodes left, so obviously something bad's gonna happen. ありがとう。
鈴葉、きっとまた会おうな。僕その時まで頑張るからさ。だから鈴葉も頑張れ。
秋葉原ラジカン屋上の人工衛星が消滅したというニュースが入ってきました。
ねえ、ひょっとしたらこのピンバッジ私たちのイニシャルだったのかな。岡部の O、 橋田の H、 椎名の S。
ああ、じゃあ M がマキセで A がアマネってことだね。
アマネ。
ラボメンバッジか。僕たちも作ってみる？
いいね。どうしたの岡部。
ダイバージェンスメーターの値が変わっていない。
今の天音さんが IBN5100 を持ってきてから変わるとか。
鈴葉54歳になってるわけっしょ。自分の娘が30歳以上年上。
結婚して孫がいてもおかしくないわね。
つまり僕はこの年にしてひ孫の姿を拝めると。
It'd be funny if it's his mother now. ひ孫？あ、ひ孫。ひ孫の姿も止める。あ、め。
いいおじいさんらしくドーンと構えてね。
来た。
ミスター・ブラウン。手紙。橋田すず。
もしかしてすずさん？
マジで？なんでブラウン氏が？
昔俺が世話になった人からの手紙だ。今日お前に渡してくれって頼まれてたんだよ。
この人は今どこに？
亡くなったよ。10年前だ。
うん。
岡部倫太郎様、お久しぶりです。天音鈴葉です。あなたにとっては数時間前のことかもしれない。今は西暦2000年の6月13日です。結論だけ書く。失敗した。失敗した。失敗した。失敗した。失敗した。
失敗した。失敗した。失敗した。失敗した。私は失敗した。失敗した。失敗した。失敗した。私が私だということを思い出したのはほんの1年前だった。私はこの24年間記憶を失っていた。タイムトラベルはうまくいかなかった。修理が完全じゃなかったんだ。でも父さんは悪くない。私が悪いんだ。まっすぐ1975年に飛んでいればよかった。2010年に寄り道すべきじゃなかった。わがままを言ってる場合じゃなかった。これじゃ未来は変わらない。IBN5100 は手に入れられなかった。ごめん。ごめんね。私は何のためにこの年まで生きてきたんだろう。使命を忘れてただのうのうと生きてきた。許し
のうのうと
許して許して許して岡部倫太郎、君はあのタイムマシンオフ会の後1975年に飛ぼうとした私を引き止めた。引き止められたからその夜にライブがあってタイムマシンが壊れてしまったんだ。もしも時間を戻せるならあの日の私を引き止めないようにしてほしい。こんな人生
無意味だった。ミスター・ブラウン。
あ？どうした？しけた面しやがって。
しけた。んOh, shiketa cow. Oh, yeah, so like a sad face. Okay, shiketa tsura. じゃなくて、すれた顔。Okay, gotcha. shiketa cow.
聞かせてください。橋田すずさんの亡くなった状況を。
知ってどうする？
彼女の最後を知っておかねばならない。それがどんなものでも この胸に刻みつけておかないと。
単なる好奇心ってわけじゃなさそうだな。しかしお前、すずさんとはどういう関係だ？
古い知り合いです。とても古い。でも彼女と過ごした時間は今もはっきりと思い出すことができます。
あまり言いたくはないんだがな。自殺だ。自宅で首を吊ってな。
Is that a? I assume that's hanging, but 首を吊る。つってな。自宅で首を吊ってな。
そんなことになる1年ぐらい前から精神的に不安定になってな。
精神的に不安定になって。
それまでは明るくて優しい人だったんだが。
俺のせいだ。俺があの夜鈴葉を引き止めたからタイムマシンは壊れてしまった。あの D メールさえ送らなければ鈴葉は1975年に旅立てたんだ。
オカリン、
ちょっと岡部、何するつもり？
このままではマユリが。
オカリン D メールを送るの？そんなことしたら全部消えちゃうんだよ。
分かってる。
すずさんとの思い出も全部なかったことになっちゃうんだよ。
分かっている。
だからお願い、未来を変えてほしい。オカリン！
Alright, raised. 40%. Okay.
え？なんだ岡部。橋田鈴か。懐かしい名前だな。お前、鈴さんと知り合いだったのか？
ええ。その人は今は？
もうかれこれ10年ほどになるかな。あの人には随分世話になった。せめて俺が見とってやりたかったんだが。
自殺ですか？
あ？病気で亡くなったんだよ。あの人の住んでた家は今は俺が使ってんだ。
この自転車？
ああ、それはすずさんがすっげえ大事にしてたんだよ。捨てらんなくてな。結局10年間置いたままだ。俺とすずさんは最初いわゆるお隣さんだったんだ。それがある時俺の家が火事で全焼してな。
全焼してな。
全部なくしちまった俺をすずさんがこの家に下宿させてくれたんだ。
下宿lives let near guest house, right? Yeah, basically rent out a room. Take lodging. Okay. 下宿させてくれた。
それまで鈴さんはずっと一人で？
結婚はしてなかったようだな。なんだか不思議な人だった。縁もゆかりもない俺に縁もゆかりも
縁もゆかりもない。縁もゆかり。Let's see what ゆかり is. ゆかり？縁もゆかりもない。
なんでこんなによくしてくれるんですかと尋ねたことがある。そしたらあの人は笑ってこう答えたよ。巡り巡って人は誰かに助けられて生きている。
巡り巡って traveling, right? Bouncing around place to place. Okay. 巡り巡って俺に
だから君もいずれ誰かを助けてあげなさいってな。ああ、そうだ。ちょっと待ってろ。こいつはすずさんの持ち物だった。何の数字かわかるか？すずさんは病床でいつもこいつを眺めててな。この数字変わる前なのかな、変わった後なのかな、私は変えられたのかなって最後までなんか気にしてたんだよな。
ダイバージェンスの数値は変わっていた。だが 1% は超えていない。この時間に山手線が動いている。前に
どうしたんオカリン？
なんでもない。
おう、さっきマユシの携帯鳴ってたけど、ひょっとしてオカリンだった？よく寝てたから起こせなかったんだけどさ。
鈴葉、これで世界は変わったのか？マユリは救われたのか？
Alright, cool. Alright, so that was, yeah, it went by pretty fast. That's about 30, I'm guessing 30 minutes. A little about 30 minutes just to follow through. And again, I wasn't picking up the full thing when Mr. Brown was kind of describing about the character of Suzu as she was, you know, helping. Still trying to get the story. That'll take a little bit of time. So I have heard from other people like I should be reading the visual novel instead of doing this with the anime. Well, one, it's a little problem getting the visual novel to work because I've never bothered to get visual novels to work because I kind of never got into visual novels. And on the other hand, also it's like I do read let's reads of books as well, and because they were saying like do the visual novels thing, you're going to get you know, you get to hear their inner dialogue a lot more. Yeah, I get that. So that's actually true. And like I said, I've got no beef with visual novels. Again, if you find something those are enjoyable, definitely read them. And especially now that, you know, again, there's the ability to copy paste, get some other information. Like if you need to make flashcards from them, you can. I don't know so much about if you can do what I'm doing, where I, you know, basically take all this information over to the side and throw it into Anki, you know, basically sentence by sentence, not sentence by sentence, but like as a whole, and then but grouped into or divided into individual sentences per card. And you know, to run through Morphman. I don't know if I'm the only one doing it, but I think, you know, I think I'm the only one who's been kind of vocal about it with that. And yeah, but anyway, kind of lost my train of thought in there. I apologize, but yeah, there is a point on. I do agree. If I was doing this visual novels, I think I'd be having the same benefit as what I'm doing here. So that's not a problem there. And yeah, I do like light novels or books like that because yeah, you do get a lot more from the text than if it was just spoken dialogue. Because again, if it's anime, they're just going to show you a picture. They're not going to tell you how the picture plays out. And again, I think you get a lot more. You definitely get a lot more from, you know, reading to audio to a book than you would if it's just reading to audio to a TV show in that way. There's that midpoint that's like I said, when I do the transcripts. So the transcripts are kind of like half between, because the people who do those transcripts, again, they're not authors. They're not like novelists or anything. So they're not trying to be artistic in how they're describing. They're just flat out describing the action. And that's a different. You kind of notice that in a different way than but there is a benefit. So I guess that's kind of like if I was watching a drama that had audio descriptions, and you had text of the audio descriptions, because we don't have that at the moment. You don't see that like on Netflix, where you do have audio, where you can have secondary audio where it plays, for the people who are visually impaired, so it actually describe the scenes that's the scene that's happening with that. But they don't have subtitles for that type of audio. They'll just have the subtitle for the spoken dialogue, which is okay. But as far as studying purposes goes, it means that you're kind of limited from that. Whereas with the transcripts, they are describing the scene, so I get that benefit, but not to the. But I'm not getting towards like this really artistic way of describing the scenes that you would get in, let's say, a visual novel or a regular novel. So yeah, again, it's a trade-off. So it's not too big of a deal. It's just something that I do notice. Apologies for taking 4 minutes to describe something so simple. Okay, so right now it's a 1:11, so it's 30 minutes. So let's go on to the next episode. Let's bring that up. Episode 17. Okay. Okay, cool. Cool. Alright, so let's do it. Episode 17, Maiden Complex. I guess we're done with the necrosis portion of the story. Okay, so it's August 8th, or August 14th.
ミスター・ブランの家から戻った後、結局何も起こらなかった。萌香たちはいつも13日の金曜日に現れていたのに、鈴葉の尾行を取り消すメールを送って。
See, K2 White Mouse saying, I can't watch Netflix anymore. My VPN service provider got banned. Yeah, unfortunately, Netflix is taken, that's from a number of people, is like actually like did a big shutdown against a lot of VPN providers. Now that might, again, this is a little bit like whack-a-mole, so all the VPN providers just need to start changing up their, whatever they use for their IPs. But yeah, so yeah, that's the problem with VPN, is it is about whack-a-mole. Again, there's a limitation to how you can fight against it, but you start noticing like, hey, are all these connections coming from a certain set of IP addresses, and then they kind of block those IPs. It's just what's happening. So it might get fixed, or go online and find out if you're hearing it from another VPN service to see, hey, is that one working? Yeah, I think it's, I don't know. I've got my own thoughts on that, but it's bullshit. All they have to do is like do a token like, hey, look, we're not showing it. Hey, people want to kind of get around it, so be it. Because think about it, I mean, how hard is it would be where they take it and then they're basically taking the information. Now, what happens with the information when it says carried? It's just then transferred again. If you see it showing, it's in your brain, and you take it, and you go, or they say like you go to another country, you can't remember it anymore. Of course not. You're still going to remember it. So again, it's just kind of gets a little silly. As long as it's initially broadcast in Japan. The person who gets it, what they do with it, as long as they're not reselling it, who cares? Again, they bought it via the Japanese portal. That's keeps it as simple as that. They're not again, it's not costing people money. It's being paid for, and the again, the art is being consumed, and you know that's about it. You know, it's not. Yeah, it's stupid. I mean, if it was a transfer of physical goods, I might kind of see it, but even then, that's kind of BS because it's like saying, "Oh, this group of people paid more for it," so. You know, now if it's like, hey, you're getting around with taxes, that's a different story. But it's always not like getting around taxes. You feel like, hey, in this country I can sell a book for $30, but in the other country I can sell it for $5. But you can't then buy the book for $5 in one country and take it to another country, you know, and sell it and resell it, you know, or something like that. They're kind of bitching about that, which I can kind of sort of agree with that in a way, but it's still kind of BS because again, we're allowed to resell things. You know, if I could do it privately and you know mail it, you know, again, that's all there is to it. Just sell it for the same price and try to aim for the lowest price. I think life would go on again. There's basically, it's like these are people who want to take advantage of the fact that some countries are, you can get more money for a product in another country.
世界線が変わったのか。だとしたらこのまま前入りは死なず何事もなく。
あれマユシーの海中止まっちゃってる。おかしいな、さっきネジ巻いたばっかりなのに。
It was like a cruel joke. Okay, August 13th.
どうしたのよ。話って何？
助けてくれ。
マユリが2時間後に？あんたはタイムリープを繰り返して何度もそれを。辛かったね。天音さんの話をまとめると、今私たちがいるアトラクタフィールドアルファから
アトラクタ Let's see if that's a attractor. アトラクタフィールドアルファから
ベータ世界線に行くことができればマユリは助かる。そのためには IBN5100 を使ってセルンが持っている岡部たちのデータを消さなければならない。
だが柳林神社にあったはずの IBN5100 は世界線の移動とともに消えてしまった。
今まで出した D メールの中で世界線が移動したのはロト6、桐生さん、漆原さん。
Okay.
フェイリスさん、天音さんの尾行。
天音さん。
最後の天音さんの尾行を取り消したら襲撃が1日遅れた。ということは D メールを遡って取り消していけば IBN5100 があった元の世界線へ戻れるんじゃないかしら。あくまで仮説よ。何の科学
Alternate theory? Kasetsu? Hypothesis. Okay. Makes sense. あくまで仮説よ。科学的 evidence? Initial 根拠 proof. Grounds, theory, authority.
科学的根拠もない話だけど。
それでも
That's the title, huh? So, 無償風曲 So, well, that's not really. It's not uso. It's a frolicking. Let's see. Frolicking figure. Kyoku. Distorted. Okay. I don't know what it means. Complex.
可能性があるのなら。
自分で言い出しておいてなんだけど、全部の D メールを取り消すなんて。
ああ、結構重労働だな。だ
重労働。Heavy work. 激しく動力や体力使う。重労働。
やるしかない。
気をつけて。あんたの脳は貴重なサンプルだから、世界線を移動しても記憶は継続してるし、タイムリ
継続。あれから。continuation。継続してるし。記憶は継続してるし。
ップにも耐えちゃうし、一度マッピングして。
ありがとう、クリス。
クリスって呼ばれたこと、私忘れちゃうんだね。
Back to August 13th.
何よ。
なんでもない。
順番から見て次に。取り消すべきなのは
フェイリスの D メールだな。
もしもし。
誰よ。フェイリスは今どこにいるか心当たりは。
おう、知ってるよ。
どこだ、どこにいる。
UPX の会場。今ライネット AB グラちゃんの決勝戦が終わったとこ。
グラちゃん。Grand Channel? Grand Championship? グラ。I think it's like Grand Champion. グラちゃんの。決勝戦。
AB グラちゃん。
ライネットアクセスバトラーズグランドチャンピオンシップの略だろ、上皇。
略だろ、上皇ネイム上皇。略だろ、上皇。
日本中のライネッターが参加している大会通過。今まさにフェイリスターの優勝で終わったとこ。もう興奮だお。
フェイリスが D メールを送った後、秋葉は昔の電気街に戻ってしまった。メールの内容はわからない。一体誰に何を。
Let's see. Channel CGM. Hey, YE gets. I don't know what that is.
フェイリス、どうした。メス猫は白衣の男と一緒です。
絶対に逃がすな。いや、逃れることなどできやしないがな。この俺の闇のフォースからは何人たりとも。
誰に追われてるんだ。
スパイラルアタッカーズにゃ。
バイエラルアタックス。 Vile attack? Okay.
バイラルアタッカーズ。
どんな卑怯な手を使ってでも勝とうとする。
Kiona. Oh yeah. Cowardly. Kiona. Cowardly hands got them all cut.
ライネッターの風上にも置けないやつらにゃ。フェイリスに負けた腹いせに待ち伏せしてたにゃ。
腹いせ。フェルスに負けた腹いせに。Is that 待ち伏せした Lying wait? 待ち伏せ待ち伏せ。あ。待ち伏せして。
待ち伏せって。こっちだ。
どこ行った？まだその辺にいるさ。
そうだな。
そういえばさっき電話くれたみたいにゃけど。
そうだ。 D メールの内容を教えてほしい。
D メール？
お前が過去に送ったメールだ。
過去にメール？何の話にゃ？
この世界線のフェイリスには D メールの記憶が。いや、なんというか。
いた
バイラルアタック。
仮にだ。
仮に。そうだと。仮にだ。
俺たちがタイムマシンを作ったと言ったら信じるか？
京馬の言うことなら信じるにゃ。
そうか。
フェイリスも異次元移動マシンを開発したところにゃ。
異次元どう？異次元にどう？
例えば秋葉が萌えにあふれた街だったとする。
にゃ。
お前がタイムマシンを使って今のような電気街にするとしたらどんな方法を取る？
何の心理ゲームだにゃ。
何でもいい。答えてくれ。
そんなこと言われても。でも萌えにあふれた街って楽しそうだにゃ。実は前にパパに話したことがあるにゃ。秋葉にもメイド喫茶をオープンさせたらどうかにゃって。でも残念ながらダメだって言われたにゃ。
メイクインのことか？
なんでその名前を知ってるのにゃ。パパにも話してないのに。
あったんだよ、メイクインがこの秋葉に。秋葉は萌えにあふれた街だったんだ。
京馬？
お前はその街を誰よりも愛していた。なのにお前がメールを送った途端街は変わってしまった。一体どんなメールを送ったんだ？頼む、教えてくれ。
いたぞ、こっちだ。
Yeah, so stuff like this is kind of fun, like Iraiki. But again, when you do it in books, you hear a lot more descriptions because you're going to be talking about how the glaring of the light reflecting off the glass of the buildings, blinding the people as they run by, or sliding into the dark alley as the attackers went by. They'll be doing descriptions like that, and it's kind of cool to read because then you get the visuals play out. Because right now I'm concentrating just on what's being written here, so I'm not seeing the visuals, so I'm missing a lot of the visuals of the story. Whereas if I was doing this as like a visual novel, or even if it is a light novel, if If I was doing that, I would be picking up these visuals, assuming I could comprehend what was being described. どうしたんや？
どうしたんや？
どうしたんや？どうしたんや？
ここだ。
ここだ。
ここにあったんだ、メイクインが。お前が作ろうとしていた店が。お前はここで働いていた。前よりもダルはここの常連だった。俺たちはここで出会ったんだ。
おかえりなさいませ、ご主人様。かしこまりました。
世界がやばい。
今日はご主人様いっぱい来てくれて盛り上がったね。
フェイリス。
大丈夫にゃ。D メールを取り消さないとどうなるにゃ。
マユリの命が危ない。
嘘にゃ。そんなの嘘にゃ。マユシーの命が危ないってどういうことにゃ。
メールの内容がわかるのか。教えてくれ、頼む。 D メールを取り消さなきゃならないんだ。
それはできないにゃ。
どうしてマユリが死んでもいいって言うのか。
いいわけないにゃ。でも
フェイリス、
10年前に死んだパパを生き返らせたにゃ。パパが死んだ過去を死なないように変えたにゃ。
いい格好台無しだね、お兄さん。さあ、お姫様、来てもらいましょうね。はい、メス猫を捕らえました。もうじきあのお方がお見えになる。それまで僕たちが
もうじき。
エロ話せ。
そこのお兄さん、まだカッコつける気？
やめて、お願い。
やめて。おい、待ちたまえ。君たち何してた？待たせたな。ジゴ様参上。あ？
参上。higher level。
なんだ貴様ら。あ？警察。逮捕する。よかった。本当によかった。
パパ、ありがとう。
優勝したと連絡を受けてね。お祝いに駆けつけたんだが、会場に姿がない。携帯にも出ないので探していたんだよ。岡部君、君には何とお礼を言ったらいいか。礼だなんてそんな。私が大会を見に行っていればこんなことにはならなかったのかもしれないが。
パパはお仕事だったんだから仕方ないにゃ。
ルミホ IBN5100。はい、
以前手放してしまったとお聞きしましたが、今はどこに？取り戻すことはできないでしょうか？
事情があってね。橋田さんには申し訳ないことをしたが。
橋田さん、橋田すずさんですか？
知っているのかい？ IBN5100 は彼女から渡されたんだ。
私は大丈夫。きっと IBN5100 を手に入れてみせるから。
すずはが手に入れてくれてたんだ。
パパ、話してくれていいにゃ。
しかし
命の恩人が知りたがってるにゃ。
昔ルミホが誘拐されてね。
Introduced, right? Kidnapped. 誘拐されてね。
会社が今ほど大きくない頃で身代金を用意することができなかった。
依頼金？身代金。
そんな時 IBN5100 を高額で買い取りたいという人物が現れたんだよ。
それで手放したんですか？
おかげで身代金を用意することができた。それ以来娘との約束は何があっても守ることにしてるんだよ。どんな小さなことでも、どんなことがあってもね。
パパ、10年前に死んだパパを生き返らせたにゃ。パパが死んだ過去を死なないように変えたにゃ。
D メールを取り消したらあの人。
オカリン D メールを送るの？そんなことしたら全部消えちゃうんだよ。
でもそうしないとマユリ、お前が。
入っていい？
どうぞ。フェイリス。
さっきはありがとう。すごく怖かった。あんなに大勢の人たちから黒い感情をぶつけられるなんて初めてだったよ。
そういえば全員黒ずくめだったな。
もう真面目に話してるのに。
ずくめ。全員黒ずくめ。
すまん。フェイリス、どうしたんだ？
ルミホって呼んでほしいな。今日岡部さんがいなかったらどうなっていたかわからない。
言い直すな。いつも通りでいい。
とにかく今日本当にありがとう。今日はね、私の王子様だよ。
王子様？俺は王子様ではない。狂気のだな。
マユシーの命が危ないって本当？10年前8歳の誕生日だった。パパと一緒に遊びに行こうって約束してたの。でも仕事でダメになっちゃって仕方がなかったんだけど、寂しくて愛されてないんじゃないかって思っちゃって、パパなんかもう知らない、死んじゃえばいいんだって。そしたらそれがパパとの最後の会話になっちゃった。その過去を変えたくて D メールを。
それで親父さんは事故を回避し、お前が積極的に萌え文化を町に取り入れることもなく、秋葉は電気街のままだったというわけか。
幸せだった。10年間。
ルミホ。
D メール送るね。パパは10年前に事故で死んでるの。それが真実。この10年間は夢。一緒に過ごしてどれだけ愛してくれていたのかも分かった。マユシーは私の友達だよ。わがままなんか言っていられないよ。
本当にいいんだな。
よくない。よくないよ。私、世界線が変わる前のことを思い出した。けど変わった後のことも覚えてるんだよ。変わる前と後がごっちゃになって、どっちが本当なのかわからなくなりそう。
何かまだ方法があるかもしれない。そうだ、もう一度クリスと相談して。
もういいの。キョウマを困らせたくない。キョウマは私の王子様だもん。もう夢から覚めなくちゃね。でも一つだけお願い。少しだけ泣いていいかな。
Kishimoto. That's tight, right? Tight spring? Creek. Kishimoto. Hmm.
フェイリスさんは？
受け入れてくれた。準備を。
お待たせにゃー。にゃにゃ。どうしたにゃ今日も元気がないにゃぞ。ちなみに世界が元に戻ったら今の記憶は全部なくなっちゃうのかにゃ。
お前は過去を変える前と後両方の記憶を持っているんだろう。きっと覚えているさ。
よかった。フェイリスはキョウマとの時間を忘れたくないにゃ。
ありがとう。
起動した。岡部。
バイバイパパ。フェイリスの携帯知らないかな。
フェイリス。
マユシーもわからないって言うし、残るはキョウマだけなんだけどにゃ。にゃ。にゃにゃ。キョウマ、この中のあれを見たのかにゃ。見たなら忘れるにゃ。あれは封印しておかないといけないものにゃ。
Gluing. The SERN.
キョウマ、今のは突っ込むところだにゃ。あれってなんだよ、あれって
フェイリス。
にゃ。
こらこらこら、その手はなんだその手は。 また変態行為をする気だな。
オカリン大胆キョーマとフェイリスは前世で大いなる闇と戦い愛し合った仲にゃ、深い仲なのにゃ。いろんな人と戦ってるね。
ひょっとしてフェイリスさんって岡部と同類？
すまない。
柳話。
柳林神社に IBN5100 はなかった。10年前確かにフェイリスが奉納し、去年まではあったということだが、一体どこに。
So it disappeared from all the times. All right, so that's 46, and what time did I start? 17? So about 30 minutes or so not too bad. All right, let's see. Whatnot, 80%, sure. Yeah, so 20 minutes of stuff, pausing and looking up also a couple of times where I'm just actually kind of like talking about shit that's not, kind of story related, but not really dealing with trying to understand the story. But yeah, it comes out to about 30 minutes, so I think that's kind of good. What I'm trying to do, if you're looking at the video of me while this is going on, you probably notice my lips are moving, because sometimes I'm trying to speak along with, kind of speak without saying anything, speak along with what I'm hearing, and so I'm already reading it, so I already know what it means. Then I hear it again, so I'm trying to kind of copy what I'm hearing as well. Kind of a form of shadowing. It's not the best type of shadowing. I'm not speaking out loud or anything. And again, I've said I have done this way back where I would read and I'd be reading out loud for an hour. I've done that. I don't think it. I'm not too certain the efficacy of that, how good it's going to be at the moment. I'm sure it works. The more comfortable, the more you speak, the better you get at speaking. That's just, you get more comfortable. Your tongue gets used to saying things in a certain way. It is better if you're going to do that. You have a native there, so that's where tutoring comes into play. Where again, they can correct what they hear. What I've mentioned before is maybe even do it ahead of time, like read for 5 or 10 minutes and record it, and then have that played. So now you can hear what you're reading out loud with the tutor. They can make the corrections, and you hear the differences right then and there, and then you can repeat, and then hopefully you sound better that way. But I do think though with shadowing, hearing how it should sound and then repeating it, I mean, that's a really good way of doing it. But again, you probably don't have a native there to correct you, since again, we're not I'm assuming most of us are not rich enough to where you can hire a tutor for as many hours as you want a day, to correct your Japanese. So this, we got to make exceptions here. So the easiest is, okay, you hear it, repeat it, and then maybe 1 hour a week if you can afford that. Have a native to do that's willing to do the corrections for you, where you actually are either you're doing it like you're speaking to them and they correct you as you speak, or you record something and they kind of correct what you say. That way you've got something better to work with. The sorry. And and for that you may want to make sure you're doing maybe kind of depend on what you want to grab, but it could be somebody narrating that. It could be a conversations and you're just doing one side of the conversation. There's some difficulty here, but I mean it can play out. It can be done. You could play it where somebody goes and actually creates a video or creates audio. Probably better just with audio, where here's a conversation, and the next is going to be the same conversation, but with one of the persons silent. So you don't hear that other person. So you're basically taking their place in the conversation. So somebody plays, and you hear a beep, so you pause it, say what you got to do, then unpause it. So it's not like there's a blank space. It's just a quick pause, basically a pause point, where you say it, then you hit play again, and then continue on. So it's probably easier that way because you're going to be screwing up. You want to maybe. Anyway, it's just an idea. Sorry, it's just an idea. It's doable. I'm sure somebody, if they wanted to, they could like take a scene, record the audio, and then blank out. Basically, just do what you just highlight and delete, a scene, or replace it with the beep. It's just an idea. It's probably a lot of work with a little benefit, but it's there. It's possible. But I think it's been said that right now I'm pushing for comprehension. So my reading comprehension is pretty good. I assume it's pretty good. It's not like great, but it is growing, getting better. So I want to get it up to where my comprehension is like the equivalent of the in1 level. Or basically, it's like, okay, here's 10,000 words I can comprehend. Along with whatever else. Yeah, some phrases, some grammar up to a certain point or whatnot. I want to get that. Cool. I've read so many books. Let's say I've read or listened to the equivalent of 50 books. When I get up to that point, whatever, then I might want to stress the speaking. Right now, because I'm doing stuff slower than what I could go a lot more. I could do a lot more per day. It's not laziness. I'm just, okay, I guess you could call it laziness. But, I have the chance if I wanted to. To do it 8 hours a day if I wanted to, of studying, and study for 4 hours a day like that, do this whole let's read stuff for 4 hours a day. I could do that, and whatnot, take the equivalent breaks that's needed, like every 20-30 minutes. But for the most part, yeah, just here's time I'm going to do reading, here's some time to learn some stuff, take another couple hours for reading, take another couple hours for learning stuff. I could do that. I'm not. I just don't have that type of I don't know, don't have that drive at the moment. At one time I did, but I don't have it now. So sometimes I have it. I feel like I could do it once I get started. Then I'll keep going. Sometimes that has happened as well. Just I'm not there. And the reason why I'm saying that is like I could get to that point I want to get at faster. Not faster as in the number of hours, faster in the number of days. So, or weeks or months, and now you got to look at it how you want to look at it. Let me go and change this real quick. Get a little distracting. But yeah, okay. Time will tell. I am getting the seeds of doubt now and again, where I'm feeling like, am I really making the gains that I think I'm making? That does start creeping up on you. Because it is difficult. Whether again, adding the whole 10 to 20 new words a day, that's difficult. The amount of time it took me when I first started to now. Again, 10 to 20 words is the same amount of time. That's just something new. Whether it was a kanji or a vocabulary word or a phrase, it was always that amount of time. Because it isn't just about learning it, it's about internalizing it. So when I learn a word, I try to internalize it. And to internalize, you got to first figure out what it is, kind of make sure I'm getting it cool, then get it to where I'm reviewed a couple times, and that's great. So, when I hear about the guy who does, anime cards, and they're all talking about, oh man, I can make cards like that quick. Yeah, I can make cards quick. That's not difficult. That's what a Subsessor S can do. Making the cards easy, but then learning it takes the time. It's like, here's a sentence. Here's that word in a sentence. Cool. You got to figure out what that word means. Okay. Doing the copying over of the stuff from the word is not that difficult. Not that time consuming. Clicking a button so you get the pronunciation and the audio for that word. Again, that doesn't take almost no time at all. But trying to make sure you understand what that word is, because I then go and make sure I understand the scene that it's from. And sometimes it's not obvious from the sentence, but when I look at the, I come here and I look at the text. And it's like, and then I see the full scene. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's where that's from. And it's like, okay, I've got it internalized, where not only do I remember what the word means, I remember now the context in which this word was spoken from in this sentence in this story. So now it really does belong to me, because again, I got a personal experience with that sentence. Cool. And again, I repeat that 10 times. It could take me about an hour to get through 10 of these words. because I'm not just like seeing a word, look up the definition, all right, cool, and then hitting save in Anki. I'm not doing that. I am trying to learn that word and make sure I've learned it first before I worry about, because that's a fault a lot of people screw up with Anki, is that they tend to think, oh, they gotta, it's like the very first time they run into a word, they're going to review it. You don't review the word. The first time is not reviewing the word. The first, unless you actually did the review first, like you read through, you know, these 10 entries in RTK book, or you read that chapter of Teikem, or you looked at these entries in the Tango books, right? In other words, you already did the learning, and then Anki becomes the review. In this case, though, a lot of times the learning happens in Anki while for the very first time you run into a word. Now you're learning it, all right? But they're trying to do learning through repetition. Like they're just hoping to basically brute force it. So here, I'm going to see it in a minute, cool. Or I'm going to, okay, cool. Now I'm going to see it in 5 minutes, cool. So there's basically, that's in my idea, that's called brute forcing. So for me, what I do is, okay, I add it, cool, and then when I hit good, I'm going to see it in 10 minutes, cool. Now I'm not going to see it again for a day. That's how that works. If it's a word, and again, so that's why that very first time before I even hit good, you know, again, I've looked up the word, cool, okay, so that's what it means, awesome, either through looking at a picture or looking at the Japanese definition, look at the English definition, whatever. All right, now I go and look for the sentences. And because usually with Morphman, there might be more than just that first sentence it shows you. It could be like 5 or 6 different sentences through all the 8 books that I have in Morphman at the moment. Cool, and so I find a sentence that meaty, has something to it that I can relate to, that I remember. All right, cool. I looked that up, cool. And you know, make sure I got the context sentence. So now I pick that one, cool. Now I add the definition. I add the pronunciation, which is button press. I add the sound, cool. And then the definition's in Japanese, but also I'll add the English definition sometimes if I need it, or add a couple of example sentences, just so I can see, like, especially it's not really a sentence, it's more like now I'm feeling like I try to add a phrase or something that uses that word, because the dictionary I happen to use, in fact, let me just show you. Let's say, yeah, right here, whole no. Let me go back here. Okay, so if you scroll down right here, so this is Kinkyusha, and down here they got some phrases, so like whole no mai. So this is a dedicatory, basically a dedication dance, or for dedicating or through religious dedications. So I might copy that over. This is like the dedicator, Honaisha. Make sure, like, Honosha. Yeah, it's a Hono. You know, so I'll add those. Now it doesn't mean I'm learning them. I'm just adding the words in there under the English definition, and I'm not doing all these phrases. I just do like 2 or 3. That's it. Very minor. But anyway, that's one card. You know, again, depending on the mood, it takes me up to about 10. At the moment, to get around up to 10 words, it takes about an hour. You know, 50 minutes to an hour. And the other reason is, because I'm looking at, but you saw the time, the consuming time is looking at those sentences in Morphman to say, okay, which of these sentences do I want to keep? And also trying to figure out what that word means. Sorry, I'm looking over here. I should be looking at the camera. And figuring out what that word means. That's the time part. The word itself, that doesn't take long. I could copy the definition if I wanted to. So I don't know how other people are studying. Yeah, making the card, you can make the cards fast. That's not that difficult. Making the card is really super simple. But, you know, again, when the card I'm adding, I have personalized because I've looked up what this word means. I've tried to make sure I remember or recalled what the sentence is from in the story, of a story which I had already read and experienced. All right. In fact, I did it live. You know, I read through the story live. You know, live streamed it, type thing, and that's cool. And the other benefit, reason why sometimes is that this is the shorter part. Is this? Hey, you know, sometimes it's just a a word I know. Cool. Press K. Sometimes that happens. Now, here's an interesting thing that happened last night. A word popped up. There's tonai. Now I'm thinking, okay, that's urban area, right? So, but you know, how come this didn't pop up? Because I know that word already. I thought. So I looked, and like there was only like 4 sentences from Morphman, but there wasn't any words from from the Tango Dex. So I was like, wait, maybe I don't know this word. So then I looked up the definition, and lo and behold, turns out I didn't know the word. The word I knew was Tokai, urban area, Tokai. The Tonai was the urban area of Tokyo. So that's a difference. Cool. It was a very simple difference, but it's the one I didn't know. And I would have been misunderstanding that word had I not added it. So that was an example. So that's why I am kind of careful about it. Most words, though, I do know what they mean. So, but I will occasionally just quickly look up that word just to make sure. But that's what Morphman can get you. There are weaknesses to Morphman. Don't get me wrong. There are going to be weaknesses because again, it assumes you can know every word. If you know every word in a phrase, and it doesn't consider that phrase itself an entry in the dictionary, guess what? Morphman just assumes you know the phrase, and it's an I+0. So that's a weakness. That's a big weakness. But most likely I'll be finding those phrases via immersion. This immersion like I'm doing now where I'm reading this, or again, and then also when I'm just watching Japanese in general. So that's why a lot of immersion helps cover cover that weakness. And then later on it might just be, hey, I start coming across a phrase I want to keep, then I will pull the, like let's say what she said, well obviously not this one. Maybe I'll start doing where I copy and paste this into a text file, and then I'll say, hey, look, I'm gonna add up to 10 phrases, and I'll know what phrases I want to keep when I get to that point. That's that sort of thing. I don't think I'm there yet. I need to worry about it. Right now, Morphman's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, so I'm gonna let it lift. And then later on, because again, I don't have to. When I add it to Morphman, I'll try to be careful. I don't know. I got to be careful or something, but I'll try to. I'll figure out something. But when I add something to, trying to think. Yeah. I'll just probably just add a. I'll figure out a way to where I can add the card quick. But for right now, yeah. Right now, Morphman's doing what I need, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be good to go for the next. When I get up to 20 books. Right now I'm up to 8 books. I've got probably get up to 16 to 20 books into Morphman. And during that time, like say last night I went through 10 words. So my Morphman count though increased by 27 because of all the words that I clicked that were already known to me. That for whatever reason. So when I do a recalc, instead of it jumping up 10, it jumped up 24 or something. And that's very common. Like it's never, because it rarely is it where. And every time when I'm done with 10 words, I recalculate. That's just a habit on which I do. And I'm noticing like, hey, this has worked great. Like I'm going through, I'm noticing words I know, which is a cool little confidence booster. And then the words that I don't know, it's like because I remember the scene. Hey, wow, this is a fun word to learn because it relates to something I remember. And it's like cool. Even if something like Toryo, which is like the foreman of a construction site. Or of a small construction site, or maybe a housing construction. That's just the way they referred to the guy on Keikon Deki Nai Toko. The guy, the bald guy that he was Shinsuke was always getting into a fight with. The Toro. For example, that's his example. One example among many. Yeah, and. That's just my what's happening with the studying. My major failing is I'm not doing this reading every day. If I was doing this reading every day, be it 2 hours or even more actually. If I was doing this like 3 hours, and then maybe studying, like actually learning words for up to 2-3 hours, that's 6 hours a day. I'd be getting a lot more done faster. I'd be getting better at the language faster. And that's just the studying part. So that's the reading, and then that's the studying. And then there's, I'd be playing the video, so I could be watching movies normally. Yeah, and probably getting a lot more done. I'm doing it as a live stream. Cool. I don't have to. There's stuff I'm reading offline, not as a live stream. I just need to do that more, and I'm not, but I should. And there's other stuff I'm not doing like I'm doing this whole Let's Read thing. It's just flat out watching. Like last night, my wife and I were just watching a show. That's all. We were just watching it and enjoying it. That's it. That's also good. I don't learn as much from that, because usually when when you watch stuff like that, you get what you get, and you don't get what you don't get. You know, you're not stopping, you're not pausing or asking the wife, you're like, hey, what did that mean or something. You just kind of leave it alone. Yeah, a couple of times, we might talk about something that was on the scene that kind of stood out to me or whatnot, or she might ask me something about whatever. But yeah, I just noticed, like, it's fun. I'm just having fun with Japanese, so that's good. But for the things that really has been helping me grow, not only is it the direct studying where I learning words specifically, but this whole let's read. This let's read is a very important part of the process for me. And I'm not going to apologize about it because it's just been super effective, really effective for me. Now, I don't know if it's going to be for other people. Maybe they hate the idea and they don't want to do it. Fine, you don't have to do it. I got to go with what works for me, and this has been the thing that's been the most effective, where I've noticed the most gains, or doing stuff like this. So, reading to audio, looking up the words that I don't know, and then for the background immersion, it should be shows in which I've done let's reads on. Shows or audiobooks that I've done let's reads on, and those are playing near 24/7. Well, I can't do it now, but when I was doing it, it was very effective. I don't like walking around with earphones in all the time. Like, I definitely don't like sleeping with earphones in now. Something doesn't feel healthy about it, because you kind of you want air to be getting around to the ear, for example. And the over-the-ear earphones, they always, because I kind of move around a lot in my sleep, they always tend to fall off. And if I try to have a strap where it's connected to the head, again, I get hot and it just start getting sweaty, and I don't like waking up in sweat. Again, that's just me. Problems which I have, there's probably solutions if I think about it. But yeah, but it's minor. The whole background immersion, I think I do get benefits from it, but I get limited benefits now compared to when I first started, but it's still beneficial. And it's still better to have something playing in Japanese and paying attention to it than for it to not be there. I'm talking too much. This is about the end of the broadcast anyway. We're over 2 hours anyway. So yeah, so this is about an hour's worth of reading, plus about 10 or so minutes of the news thing I was doing. It wasn't even that long. It was like two news clips with me talking a lot about the virus, or that asshole that was like got arrested for being a YouTube asshole. Okay. We'll call that a day. So thank you all very much. It's Nuke Marine. I'll be back someday later, hopefully tomorrow, but you never know. And continue on. The next time will be episode 18 and 19, and 2021, then 22, 23. I might even do 24 all together and whatnot. We'll see how that all works. And then yeah, just carry on. Thank you all very much. White House channel GMM. I don't know what that means. And yet, thank you for the comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks. Watching. Cool. All right, later, guys.